Hey guys, welcome back to the MCU HQ. This is my review of episode 3 of Hawkeye, titled Echoes. I'm sorry I couldn't have this out earlier. I had a busy day, and I think that's going to be the case next week also. But then the last 2 episodes of the show I'll have up early. So the short answer is that this is the best episode of Hawkeye yet. Now, for the long answer, I want to start out by saying that this episode did what the MCU has failed to do for the last 9 years, and that is make Clint Barton a badass. In this episode, he is. He has a fight scene where he takes on a whole group of people by himself, and he is doing some really cool stuff with his bow and arrow, and you can see just exactly why Nick Fury might have really wanted this guy's skill set. I'm not going to say exactly what he does, I'll mention it in spoilers, but Hawkeye can really use a bow. And speaking of using a bow, you also have Kate Bishop in this episode, obviously, and her and Clint are paired up the entire time. They don't split up. I thought that was really cool. In the first episode, they didn't meet until the end. In the second episode, they both went off on their own adventures, but in this one, they are teamed up from the beginning of the episode to the end. They get some great banter. There's some great scenes with the two of them, and they also get some awesome action scenes where they do little team up moves with their bow and arrows, a few of which are really cool. So let's just say that Kate reviewing Clint's trick arrows is something I didn't know I needed in my life, and there is one arrow that he fires that before he fired it, I had turned to my friend, I was watching it, he was sitting next to me, I had turned to him and said it would be really cool if he had a certain arrow, and then he immediately actually had that arrow, and he fired it, and I almost fell out of my chair. It was so cool. I think what this episode did for its characters was definitely the strongest part of this episode. It had some very good character writing in this episode. It's also worth mentioning the directing was really good. It was the directing duo Bert and Bertie. Never heard of them. But they directed this episode, and it was pretty solid. But yes, the character writing in this episode was great. There is a character introduced. It's Echo. She was introduced at the end of episode 2. She gets a lot of stuff to do in this episode, and I think she has the potential to be a fantastic character. In the first 5 minutes of this episode, I knew exactly who this character was. I knew why she was a villain. I was sympathizing with her. It was great. It was very great writing, and they got just straight to the point of Echo as a character. But I hope that she has some personality, because there's a difference between personality and motive, and right now her personality and her motive are the same thing. And I feel like if you do that, it can be a slippery slope into becoming Carly from The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I hope that they don't go down that slippery slope, because I don't want a bad villain. Echo has a really good motive as it is, and I hope they continue to do something with that and they build on it and they give her character something beyond just her want. If they don't and she just ends up being really boring, I'm not going to be excited for her show. But as it stands, she has the potential to be a phenomenal character, and I really hope they do her justice as the show goes on. And there's also a character introduced in this episode, or not introduced, they're alluded to, they're teased. It's a character a lot of people have been wanting to see. If you watched the episode this morning, a certain character was trending on Twitter, so it's probably not a surprise. But then again, I'm not going to say who it is, just know it's a character a lot of people really want to see in the MCU, and it looks like we're finally going to be getting that character. I was hyped. It's the thing from this episode everyone's been talking about. And as I mentioned in my review for the first 2 episodes, I was hoping they would do something more with Hawkeye's hearing aid, expand on it a little bit. Well, ask and you shall receive, because this episode did exactly that. They do some really cool stuff with his hearing aid. Sometimes it's used for jokes. There's some funny scenes with it involving, one in particular involving him and Kate on a train. And then there's also some heartbreaking scenes, some more gut-wrenching scenes. There was this scene with Hawkeye talking with his son, and that was a really phenomenal scene. The hearing aid is kind of central to this episode, and they really kind of dive into the idea that Clint Barton can't really hear so well anymore, and I liked seeing everything they did with that. And the first episode of the show was very Kate Bishop-centric. The second episode was a bit more even between him and her and Hawkeye. This episode, yeah, it had a lot of Kate Bishop in it, but I think it was very heavy on Clint Barton. He got a lot of story. He had a lot of involvement in the plot line this episode. So it seems like they're going to try to find a way to balance it out, because judging by what we've seen so far, if a certain character gets a lot of time to shine in one episode, the other character will get a lot more time to shine in the next episode. I've heard that's also how it is in the Matt Fraction comic. So I hope they do that. That'd be really cool, because this is not a Kate Bishop show. It's a partnership. It's a team, right? Or as it's two of them. So I hope both members of that partnership get a lot of stuff to do. And judging by how it's been so far, that's exactly how it's going to be. I think the action's also a step up. I was not someone who was critical of the action in the first couple episodes. That said, it was still better in this episode. I really liked the fight scenes, including one really cool car chase, which you've actually seen a good chunk of if you watch the Disney Plus Day video on Disney Plus. If you haven't watched it, don't watch it. It'll just spoil this car chase for you. Yeah, overall, this was another great episode. Every episode of Hawkeye so far has been better than the last. I hope that continues. That'd be really cool. This is a really well-written show. I think one of my favorite things about the show so far is that it's really funny, but it knows when it's time to be serious, and they don't really mesh the two when it's time to take a break from the comedy. They take a break from the comedy and only put in a joke at the end of the scene when it works. So yeah, those are all my non-spoiler thoughts for episode 3 of Hawkeye, called Echoes. I can't wait to see what the back half of the show has in store. I'm really enjoying it so far. Is it my favorite of the shows? No. Does it have to be? No. I'm just really liking what I'm seeing. And that is the long answer. So if you have not seen episode 3 of Hawkeye, go watch it. I don't want to spoil it, because I'm going to talk about something big right off the bat here. So I'm going to give you 5 seconds to leave. No, I'm going to give you 4 seconds to leave this video. 4 seconds. All right. 4, 3, 2, 1. So we all know that Kingpin is the guy who was teased, right? They showed the guy's hand. After they showed a shot, low to the ground, guy walked into frame, who was built like Vincent D'Onofrio, wearing a nice suit like Kingpin likes to wear, stuck his hand out. He said something that I think sounded a bit like Vincent D'Onofrio, but they wouldn't show him. And then the whole episode, they had been alluding to this uncle who is really dangerous, and he's the guy in charge, and you don't want to piss him off. If he wasn't a huge deal, they wouldn't show him, but he seemed so much like Kingpin. It's also worth noting that Kingpin is Echo's adopted father. So we're getting Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock back this month. What a friggin' time to be alive. I only say that because Daredevil's also rumored to be in No Way Home. So I think it's also a pretty good chance he will be. At this point, I'm starting to think Daredevil's going to be in Spider-Man. As I said, Hawkeye, a badass. I really liked his fight scene. And the thing I want to talk about is when he jumps off the balcony and fires his arrow, and it like cuts Kazi on the forehead and then goes into the tape that's binding Kate Bishop. That was such a cool shot. Not like camera shot, I mean arrow shot. It was really cool. It's the world's greatest Archer moments from Hawkeye. I also thought the ball pit was funny. I thought the ball pit, him hiding in the ball pit, was kind of funny. And yeah, the trick arrow that made me almost fall out of my seat, I was telling my friend, I said, it would be amazing if Hawkeye had an Ant-Man arrow. And then like 10 seconds after I said that, Clint Barton fired a Pimtech arrow that enlarged another arrow and then came down on this truck. Now, granted, it wasn't a shrinking arrow, it was a growing arrow. But you know what? Close enough. I don't care. All right. Let's talk about Echo. Maya Lopez has this great relationship with her father, and her father gets killed by a Ronin. And some people are saying that it's probably not Hawkeye in the suit, that Kingpin maybe put someone else in the suit to kill her father. Realistically, that's what happened. But I hope that's not the case, because something about Hawkeye actually having to atone for that is a cooler story to me than him just being perfect. It's part of the issue I have with Black Widow, Black Widow has red on her ledger. The Dracov's daughter is something that was supposed to haunt her. And then in Black Widow, they revealed, no, she's actually alive, and then Natasha freed her. And what that does is that takes all the darkness out of Black Widow immediately. It's like, oh no, Natasha is a great person. Even though she didn't intend for the person to survive, the fact that she did and Natasha was able to save her kind of rids her of all sins. No. If they kill an innocent person, let them kill that person. Just let them do it. Heroes don't need to be perfect. I prefer when my characters make mistakes. I prefer it more from a story standpoint. Yeah, Hawkeye's hearing aid got broken by Echo when she kicked him in the head with her prosthetic leg. And it was cool because the hearing aid got knocked out and his ears were ringing from getting kicked in the head with the prosthetic leg that was in a boot. That's really gotta hurt. But yeah, it becomes a big point of the episodes that he can't hear anymore. And the scene when he's talking to his son on the phone and he thinks it's his wife, and Kate Bishop holds up the notebook that it's his son, and he's talking to him and she has to transcribe everything the son says or paraphrase it so that way Clint can respond, and he talks about being home for Christmas and his son says it's okay if you're not home for Christmas. Whew, man, that was such a well-written scene. That was a great scene. I feel like that's one of the scenes the show's gonna be remembered for. Like, looking back, it's like, right, all 9 episodes of What If, people look back at the Doctor Strange episode. The episode of WandaVision, everyone looks back at what is grief if not love persevering. I feel like this is going to be the scene that people look back at Hawkeye's like, remember when he had to talk with his son and he couldn't hear his son, and then 2, he was missing all these fun things he wanted to do with his son? But we all know he's going to make it back for Christmas. It'll be okay. He'll be back for Christmas. The restaurant scene. Oh my god, the restaurant scene. I thought the restaurant scene was great because the camera was like right in front of them while they were having their heart-to-heart, which I thought was pretty cool framing. But also, they make the comic reference when Kate draws up what his suit should look like, and it has the H and then the lenses coming off his head. And then Hawkeye says another great line. This is another great scene where he talks about his reasons for not having like a giant colorful suit is 1, he's always been covert. He's supposed to be invisible. Number 2, his wife would divorce him. I thought that was funny. And 3, he's not a role model. He never has been. Ouch. And I think the reason he doesn't consider himself a role model, in part, is because he was Ronin and he killed people. Because it was a really dark 5 years for Clint Barton. And I wonder, I bet it's next episode. They'll reveal next episode, right? That he was Ronin, because we're going to have a swordsman versus Clint Barton fight next episode. It's pretty clear. The episode's kicking off with that sword fight. And if Hawkeye starts kicking ass with a sword, people are going to put 2 and 2 together. This guy's probably Ronin. And which leads me to believe next episode is also the one where they'll reveal that the fiance is not the bad guy, because he's so on the nose evil that there's no way he's the bad guy, right? Also, he's got a killer mustache, and I would hate if that was an evil mustache. We always have mustache twirling villains. Can we for once have a mustache twirling good guy? That'd be cool. But guys, that's all I want to talk about for Hawkeye episode 3. A great episode, best episode of the show so far, and I hope it can continue to just keep topping itself, because I would dig that. What did you think of this episode? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, leave a like on this video, subscribe, click on the bell icon to receive all notifications from the MCU HQ. That's gonna be it. Have a great day, guys.